Hello, everyone. Today's presentation is about the effects of light pollution and what you can do to stop the spread. My name is Mark Zadarsky. I am employed by New Jersey City University in the Earth and Environmental Sciences Department. I'm also a member of Amateur Astronomers Incorporated, North Jersey Astronomical Group, and our umbrella club, United Astronomy Clubs of New Jersey. So, what is artificial light pollution? So, it's any light created by human beings at night, whether that be for our light fixtures, our screens, uh, fireplaces, doesn't matter. So, it's anything that's not sunlight, essentially. Um, Light pollution in of itself has now been known to increase about 9 to 10% every year from the previous year. It interferes greatly with observing the night sky. Um, any light that is pointed upward or escapes into the atmosphere can reflect off of small water particles or dust particles, and that actually is called scattering. And I'll get into that in a little bit, and that amplifies the effect. Um, Also interferes with humans and wildlife. Uh, our natural circadian rhythms and our sleep cycle with long-term effects. I'll get into that a little bit more as we go. And also, this is also especially true of bluer leaning light as opposed to softer tones. So even when it's not cloudy out, there is some moisture content in the atmosphere, and so any light that escapes through your street lamps or your home lamps or spotlights will eventually either reflect off the ground or if it's poorly constructed, go straight up into the atmosphere, causing sky glow and light pollution. So look up the picture at the right here. This is Los Angeles, right next to the Griffith Observatory. And you can see all the lights not just below, but up into the atmosphere above it is reflecting off. That's actually light scatter. Particularly, even worse, you can see the spotlight here off to the right hand side, shooting up to the middle left, and how much that amplifies sky glow. The fact that you can see the beam is it's reflecting or basically scattering off of small particles. Another thing you want to take a note here of, the brightness of these softer tones here. The softer light isn't affecting the sky nearly as much as the brighter, bluer light. You can see these are point sources, and I'll get into that later. And over here again, the spotlight that is actually causing more of a problem, scattering, than the softer tones. And this is obviously an extreme effect because we're in a city over here, but it's just the fact of poor management of light, whether it's to the municipality or people's own homes here. So, as an astronomer, why does this matter? So, glare and light pollution disrupts your night vision. You're seeing at night. Um, so, you ever go to the doctor, and eye doctor, and they've dilated your pupils, and everything is a glare. Well, that's because now your pupil is much wider than it was in normal daylight hours, and it's letting more light in. Well, at night, this happens naturally, and your pupil opens up to let more light in so you can see. Um, so when there is a lot of light pollution or glare, the pupil closes down. So what does that do? Um, so not only does the glare scatter light, but when you look through a telescope, for instance, this is the center of the Orion Nebula here on the right, and this is through a relatively dark sky, maybe Bortle 4, Bortle 5, probably closer to Jenny Jump State Park, the darkest part of New Jersey, where there is some light pollution, but not that much. Compare that here to a view that you would get in, say, Montclair, New Jersey, Clifton, that area. You would see just a tiny, tiny bit. Well, that's partially due to the light pollution itself, but also the fact that your eyes do not get to open up as much. And this is also particularly true if you've just looked at a bright street light or a neighbor's light is coming on and gets into your eyes. That closes your eye pupil down and you can't see nearly as much. Literally, I've had cars come down the street while I'm observing, and the Orion Nebula would go from this to this, and it would take almost 15, 20 minutes for that to come back. So that's just another example of what that does. So blue leaning light, so otherwise known as cool lights by the industry, make the problem worse. This is kind of a spectral diagram of what a typical LED or light or something leaning towards the blue. You'll spike around the 450 nanometer to 500 nanometer range right in here, and that particular uh, wavelength. If you look over here on the left, the blue wavelength is much shorter than the red wavelength. So what does that mean? It means that there are more chances of it scattering off smaller particles such as water vapor compared to larger particles such as dust. That's why sometimes when you see fires from um, out west, the light looks redder because there are larger particles in the atmosphere, and now the red can scatter off of it as well. But for the most part, the blue is the one that scatters the most of all. The other part of the problem is that most of our light pollution filters that we use with, uh, your nebulas and things of that nature are often allowing more of that blue light in. So now the problem is before we had light that was more red leaning and it would reject that, and now there's no way to escape that. So it's almost rendering your light pollution filters, not going to say completely ineffective, but definitely less effective than they were, because the light pollution filters tend to be more towards the 500 nanometer range, but it still lets in a lot of this blue light. And it's become a problem over the past, not that long, the past few years. Again, there's your spectrum, and there's your blue light, blue white light here, and you have some of your softer lights over here, and they would fall in this part of the spectrum. So other adverse effects of blue light at night. It's again worst for light pollution above all other colors. That's a very quick way to make the Milky Way disappear. I can say that in particular. One of the things I happen to love, I live in Hopatcong now, which is one of the main reasons why I moved out there was it is much better light pollution wise than it was back in Clifton and Montclair and that area. Went from a Bortle 8, which was a very bright sky, to a Bortle 5, which is still bright as far as that goes, but the amount of things you can see is thousands of times better than at Montclair. But when neighbors leave their lights on, particularly ones that face upwards, I come home and I don't see the Milky Way at all. It's basically gone. And on nights that it's off, it's back. Um, but again, that is one of the things that literally, it makes a local light dome. So you at your home uh, do have an effect, your surroundings, your neighbor's surroundings, um, but also it deals with the health not only of yourself but your pets and your wildlife too. Particularly, um, light at night can affect your circadian rhythms and your sleep cycle. Particularly blue light um, is the worst with that. But so and can even lead to certain types of cancer. For instance, in women, lack of sleep and your circadian rhythm disruption. There's already data that that's a higher incidence of breast cancer. There's other cancers too that are tied to this, but that is the most common one. It also affects wild animals as well as your pets. in a similar way and can disrupt migration patterns of birds, and it can increase the behavioral problems in many other animals, including your own pets as well. So here's a little um, diagram of different types of light sources and their spectra. Um, Again, humans and animals are evolved to react to natural sunlight levels. So during, normal time during the day, this is your sunlight will have large parts of blue and yellow and red, but blue during the daylight, and as the sun sets, um, the blue starts to disappear, and it starts to trigger uh, sleep patterns, actually, um, and basically gets you ready for nighttime. Um, so what does that mean? If you're going to switch to an LED light, you really only want to use warmer colors, especially at nighttime. Bluer lights can work for midday, from like 10 a.m. to maybe 3, 4 p.m. at the latest, but not in the evening or at night. You want warm color lights. Uh, your computer screen, your phone, both my phone and my computer. I do a lot of imaging, astronomy imaging at night, but I have an app that actually turns the color of the screen warmer at nighttime hours. Therefore, it's not actually hurting me while I'm doing my work outside. This is also true for work inside. So you want something that turns your screen tone also a warmer color as well. Um, so going to cool white LEDs down here, you can see again the large blue spike. And if this is nighttime, this is disruptive, uh, and actually can cause you not to get good REM sleep. And again, eventually, long-term effects. You could get something as horrible as a certain type of cancer. Um, warmer rather LEDs, a 3000K bulb has a lot less of the blue in there, a lot more of the red spectrum. Um, and that's much more acceptable if you need to light yourself at night. Again, not using light at all is better, but in our modern world, we need to be able to operate. So there are ways to mitigate that. Another thing that often gets confused with light pollution is a concept called light trespass. And what is it? So basically, it's any type of light um, that spills off of your property, right? If your bulb is the source light, spills onto someone else's property, and it's not affecting the area to be lit. And one hint is, let's say you're here, and this is your property, and this is your neighbor's property over here. If you can literally see the light bulb, there's a light trespass problem going on. So literally, your eyes here, you can see the bulb, it's a problem. The same type of thing. If you're standing in this area over here, you can see the bulb, it's a problem. So how do we get around that? So here's a nice diagram of, worst to best type of lighting. Um, the worst type of lighting is unshielded. You can see the bulb, even if it's frosted, it's still unshielded. It's not good. And progressively getting better, and the best one actually is the one that is shielded. You cannot see the bulb. If you're walking over here, you can't see the light bulb. That is the best way um, to light your home, outdoors. Best way to have street lights. All types of lighting, no exceptions. Nothing is to point straight up towards the sky, especially the sky. But you don't want to see it going horizontally or even slightly off a horizontal. You don't want to see the bulb. That's the idea. Once again, here, same type of idea. Colder light, not good. Uh, Warmer light and shielded, so it's only affecting the area over here, the area of the intended light. So another example of this again is the glare bomb lighting. Um, what are glare bombs? Um, Essentially, any type of unshielded light where you can see the bulb and it's exceedingly bright, right? We're not talking about Christmas lights, or little tiny point source. It's the difference between looking at stars and looking at, our own sun. That's really the kind of difference we're talking about here. So, um, I actually have another video site attached to this where you can read more about this in the playlist. But I took a excerpt out of here. So essentially, you would come down here. There is a person hiding there. You can barely see them. You're blinded by your own light, right? So this is a criminal perpetrator. You are blinded by them. Put your hand in front of it, and now all of a sudden you can see them. Um, Better yet, have your hand in front of it first, and not look at the light, and you see them even better. Again, this type of glare also affects your night vision, so you can't see anything in the dark and the shadows because your pupil has closed down yet again. And not only is this a light pollution problem, but it is a health problem. It is also a security problem. Again, it's a common misconception that the more light you have, the more secure you are. This is the same page. Just scroll down further and you run your cursor over it. You can see what the difference is here. So there's a person here standing in the bright part, right? You can easily see them. The person is still here in the picture next to you, and you have to look really long. I know who the person is, and I'll give you a few moments here to find him or her. I can't really tell from this image where this person is located. So this light is blinding everything here. The person was standing right here. Where are they? Directly under the light, underneath the pole, right here. You can see the image outline of a person. If you look really closely, right there. They're hiding in a shadow. Now, personally, I can tell you myself, in the 1990s, I was fooled by this type of tactic, and it's well known to criminals. I was held up doing the bank drop for the Ola Theater. One day, me and the other assistant manager got held up at gunpoint. Person was hiding almost in plain sight. You could not see them, but the place was so well lit. They hid in the only slightly shadowed area. They came out, took the money, and ran. Uh, Essentially, the criminals staked this place out, and eventually they caught the person and they found out, why they did what they did. Essentially, for that very reason, they knew that he wouldn't be seen until it was too late. You were right on top of him. So this type of lighting is poor type of lighting. Actually, is more adverse effects than positive effects. Not to mention that it's bad for the trees, bad for the animals, bad for the night sky. So, something else to keep in mind. So, what's an amateur astronomer to do in all of this? Um, well, in more extreme cases, if you have the time, and this doesn't happen very often, you can make a trip to a darker sky site. For instance, Jenny Jump State Park during the summertime is a little darker. It's a Bortle 4 sky. There are a lot less street lights. Or you can go to the Adirondack Astronomy Retreat. That's very dark. That's a Bortle 2, 3. And again, we only, in these areas, we only allow red light flashlights. Again, for the same reason, red lights affect your night vision the least. In the similar way that they don't scatter nearly as much, your pupils do not dilate nearly as much. So always remember, red light is the best. Again, that's the warmest when you're getting warmer in color. So there are IDA, International Dark Sky Association, which I'm a member of. They have guidelines, and you want to enact all of these guidelines. You don't want to pick one or two or three. You really want to use all of them. So useful lighting. All light should have a clear purpose. Before installing or replacing a light, determine if it's actually needed. How the use of the light will impact the area, including wildlife and the environment, and your pets, and you. Consider, using other types of things to, signs, curbs, how that light will reflect off of it. target your light. Your light should be directed only where it's needed, aka fully shielded and downward, nothing else. Use shielded, careful aiming. Target the direction of the light so it points downward and does not spill beyond the area that it is needed. Next thing, low light levels. Don't, in this day and age, they tend to make lights brighter and brighter and brighter. They're more efficient. They're using less energy. That's great. You know what would make it even more efficient? If they didn't burn as bright. So now instead of maximizing our energy usage and carbon footprint, we're going for brighter. So you want to make it no brighter than necessary. Lowest light level required. Be mindful of surface conditions. Any surfaces that may reflect more light onto the night sky or anywhere else. One way to look is to look at your own house, look at your neighbor's house. Do you see light that is reflected? Where did it come from? Did it come from your light bulb? Did it come from their light bulb? Should you ask them? Light should only be used when it's useful. Use timers, motion detectors, and that sort of thing. Now, there are often motion detector spotlights. Again, those are good, but you got to make sure they are directed properly and shielded. Again, all of these things work together. And finally, the color temperature. Use warmer color lights where possible. Actually, use warmer color lights, period. You do not want to use blue. You do not want to use blue-white. Again, for the same reasons, circadian rhythms, light scatter, and that's something that be an example. If you have a neighbor and their lights are on all the time, eventually you do want to have a conversation. Most people don't really know, don't understand this, and who can blame them, right? You have to look for these guidelines, right? So they don't know that they're actually hurting themselves and hurting their neighbors, hurting the environment. So you want to be as gentle as possible. It's not their fault. They don't know that all of these things are happening because this is not always necessarily common knowledge. A lot of folks just believe light your area up as much as possible, and you'll be safe. And in reality, there have been some studies, quite a bit, areas that were lit up, two neighborhoods, same type of neighborhood, same type of demographic, and the lighting was doubled, and the other one was left the way it was. The crime doubled in the heavily lit area, not the other way around. Why? Because criminals use that light to see your house, inside your house, where your security cameras are. You're basically, showing everything that you have to them. They can stake you out. So there are a lot of things that you want to keep in your mind when lighting your house. So, a little graphic here of what you want to do, what it looks like, right? You have light pollution. What causes light pollution? Light trespass, sky glow, and glare. Now, glare are the point sources, right? Sky glow is the reflected light from all the light, collective light. Although you can have local sky glow. Montclair State University has that problem, where too many lights are on campus and directed improperly. That has a real problem. At New Jersey City University, believe it or not, it's less of a problem, even though we're closer to New York City, because our lights were aimed downward. So downward facing lights, right? These are they're not crazily lit. They're low temperature. You don't see any point sources. This is a bad neighborhood over here. You see all the point sources. The lights are high up. That's not good. Even worse, upward facing and upward facing lights directly cause light pollution. And you see the point sources, right? Point source too bright. Point source too bright. Point source too. This is an example of what you don't want. And you can't see the night sky, right? Here you can see the night sky. And you still have safety, and you have a well lit neighborhood, a thoughtfully lit neighborhood. Again, you switch to night sky friendly fixtures and warmer lighting. If you're looking at the NJAG playlist I put together, you'll have sources where you can see where you can buy this type of lighting. As a matter of fact, I am going to be switching my own home to this sort of lighting, where the lights are not, the bulbs are not seen. Again, the bulb directly visible, that's a problem. Here is an example of a spotlight aimed outward. The bulbs are directly visible, not good. And also, cooler color. Here's a warmer color bulb, not directly visible. The lights are aimed downward and away, so that you're not getting light in your face. What's a good example? 3000K or warmer. Sometimes it's harder. I mean, if you got a 4000K, that's okay for now. Anything cooler than that is not good, especially when you get to 10,000K. But anything over this point to the right is not good. Um, so again, downward facing, warmer lights, and let's all keep up with the good work, and hopefully we can bring this type of view back. This is actually a picture from the Adirondack Astronomy Retreat. You can see the Milky Way, the center of the Milky Way, but notice all the lights are red. There are no white lights here at all, and you can see just about everything here. This is a Bortle 2 sky. This is not a perfectly dark sky, but this is what we are missing. Again, I want to thank everyone, and see you soon. Take care.